Good morning. I had a thought on my mind this morning, and I was thinking about it before I exercised, but then after I exercised too, and I was thinking while I was exercising, what am I going to say? I haven't made a video in a long time. And I thought, well, I could talk about what I'm thinking about. People might like to know that. And what I was thinking about was, when we were born, we didn't come with instructions, and yet everybody does the same exercise. That's because our bodies are all the same, right? We're all human, but like I say, no one told us how to walk. Do we all use the same muscles? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about. I've been thinking about, well, I did a whole lot of exercise, and I was thinking about when I was in the hospital, I heard the doctor say, yeah, well, it's not likely she'll live, but if she does, she won't ever walk again. I remember thinking, that's not true. I'm going to walk again. But I was thinking, well, doctors have been known to say things that end up not being true, but it's just because they're taught about people as being a certain way. So my thought is, maybe there's a muscle that we use to walk, but I used a different one. I don't know, maybe the way it was easiest for me is I use a different way to walk. I don't know how I do that or what it would be, because in anatomy classes you learn about the muscles and how they function and stuff. Doesn't really make sense, but that thought kept coming to me, and so I need to follow it down that thought down the path and see where it leads me. But I was thinking, well, I always feel like an exception or something, like running is so easy and other people complain it's hard. Well, maybe it's because they use their muscles differently. No one told us how to do it in the first place, and yet it's so funny because there's so many things I could do, and they're like, well, why don't you teach yourself now because you were a teacher? I don't even know how I did it. I just did it. I was really good at playing the piano, let's say, but then when I read other people's lessons on how to do it. Another thing I've really been noticing lately is like singing. I've been trying to do all these practices to improve my singing voice, because I used to sing really good, but now I can't, and I'm like, well, don't I still have the same? So I'm not in control of my vocal folds or anything, but I'm still the same. But you know what I noticed? When we first started, I could not sing alto notes. And I noticed that my voice was clear in the soprano notes, but nowadays it's like when I get to a high E, I can't sing it. But even in college, I could sing that. I remember singing songs that were supposed to be for lyric sopranos, and I'm like, that's not even hard. But it's because I create the sound when I sing differently than other people. And they talk about raising your palate. Well, I have dentures, so I have plastic on the roof of my mouth, so I can't do it the same way. But in glottal attacks and stuff, you need to create a resonance chamber, right? That's what all the people who are teaching you how to sing, well, we use a lot of breathing exercises when I learned, but we didn't focus much on creating it's like when you play a flute, the part that resonates, you have to have like so much, you have to have a space for the wavelengths, and it's by changing the wavelengths that you change the pitch. Well, I've noticed that when I have a cold and my sinuses were entirely stuffed up, I could not sing. And then I started thinking, maybe I'm using my sinus cavity. And I've watched a lot of multiphonic singers, and they sing a different note by using a different, they use, like, they have two chambers that they can use to resonate and to produce sounds. They only have one set of vocal cords, right? But they can still sing with multiphonics. Most famously, and in college, what I heard a lot of was Tibetan monks came and did it, and they do sing with the goal. And dumb myself, I just assumed they put their hand in front of their mouth, and I thought, well, it must be because their voice can only produce one sound, but their hand can produce another sound. Because whenever you do multiphonics on trombone, you buzz a different note and you sing a different note. At least that's how I did it. So it'd be like, I can't buzz anymore, but anyway, you sing a different note than what you're buzzing. Anyway, so stupid I can't do it anymore, but that's what I used to be able to do. Anyway, last time I tried was years, probably 30 years ago. My dad could probably do it. He's really good at things like that. But anyway, I remember my band director asked me if I could buzz a song as a test before I joined the band, just to see if I was prepared to play a brass instrument. And I have pencils in my mouth all the time to help, but I was determined to be able to buzz a song, so I did that before I even had an instrument. I had to do that to prove that I was ready. And my band director was so amazing. Another thing he told me was, okay, well, I had cross-country practice at a high school that was like a mile away from my middle school, where I had my instrument, and my house was like a block away from the junior high, the middle school. So I normally practice all the time, every single night. And what he did is, to give us our grade, he would go through and check to see there was a place where we keep our instruments, and he'd go through and see whose instruments were there overnight, and so we had to take them home. Well, I tried the first night. I tried leaving it there, walking, because we had to walk to the high school for cross-country practice, or track practice even. And then I tried walking back, and when I got back, the band hall was locked, so I couldn't get my instrument. I was devastated. And the next day, when I saw the band director, before he confronted me about not practicing, I went to him and I said, "I'm so sorry I didn't practice. I tried." And he just looked at me and he says, "Well, you know what I had to say about that." And I was like, "Oh, here it comes." He said, "Where there's a will, there's a way." And so I thought, okay, well, I want to practice, so I carried my trombone to the high school and left it. That was a little nerve-wracking because we had a locker room, but it was reported that people would get things stolen, so I had to rent a locker just to put my trombone in, because I didn't want anyone to steal it while I was out running. And I had to walk carrying a trombone then a mile to the high school and a mile back home, just so that I could practice so I'd get a good grade. Well, the thing is that it was that important to me. It was very important to me about that time in my life. Now I don't even own a trombone, believe it or not, but at that point in my life, music was everything to me. That was what I was going to do with my life. So what was I talking about? Oh, the fact that multiphonics. I was talking about how I can't buzz and sing a note, but that's how you do it. But I was like, how does... And then I saw a video of a lady who actually sang two notes at once. Well, if you only have one set of vocal cords, you can't be doing that unless... Well, I guess you could make more than one vocal cord resonate at once, but I don't have control over those muscles. That could be why I can't sing, but anyway, I noticed when we were saying a prayer that I almost passed out because I couldn't breathe, and I breathed through my nose. And I was like, oh, that's why I can't sing, because I use my nose. And so when I have a sinus infection or a sinus cold, I can't sing because that's what I use. Oh. See, a lot of people use, I don't even know how they do it. It's like closer in their mouth. Ooh. They use that. That's how it sounds when I do it. Ooh. And the sound I create is ooh. See, it's like my nose. And my husband has commented a couple times to Mary. Once again, I restate, people are not born with instructions. And so she was just doing what came naturally to her. He's talking to her, he says, don't talk through your nose. Obviously, she wasn't talking through her nose because we form our words with our mouth and our lips. So And she was doing that, but what she does, you can hear she uses her sinus cavity to resonate. Now I think that's probably what I did, and I wasn't there to have any instruction on how to do it any differently. And while I was exercising today, I was thinking, I remember people making comments. I can think right now off the top of my head of a few people who made comments about how the fact that I was shaped differently. And I think that's because I use muscles differently, because things were just so easy. I'm like, well, yeah, that's just how I naturally do it. And I noticed that when I was trying to do breathing exercises so that I could sing again, I was noticing that I don't breathe the way they say. And they'll say things. Oh, it was funny too. Let me just quickly, and then I'll leave because it's getting too long. But where am I going? I don't even know. My band director, not my band director, my trombone instructor once. It was so funny. He was teaching me about proper posture when you play. And he asked me to go stand against the wall. So I went and stood against the wall. And he says, okay, now put your hand back there. I was like, yeah. He says, you feel that space? Yeah, I do. He says, well, you feel that space between your back and your spine? What is keeping your back from touching the wall? And I, without thinking, I said, my hand. That is not the correct answer. The correct answer was the fact he was trying to teach me about the curvature of my spine, and that's why you have to be careful when you're sitting in chairs, and that's why people stand up when they sing, so that you can kind of tilt your pelvis in a way so that your spine is not infringing. It is not taking over space that you need to fill your lungs up with air so that you can breathe properly. Anyway, I just gave you a free lesson. It was just funny. I'm always doing things just differently. It's like you just think of the way you just do it naturally. I remember, I think what my psychologist or therapist was doing was trying to test my left and right awareness, because I was suffering from hemiparalysis and recovering from that. And a common problem that people have is they don't even regard things on their left side of their body. And so he gave me a piece of paper and asked me to fold it in half. Now, a test that people usually have is they have a line and they're asked to draw a line. Now, if he had asked me to do that, I would have known what he was doing, and I would have been like, I would have closed my eyes, opened them again, and I would have put it over a little bit over from where I thought it was supposed to be, because I knew that my vision wasn't right at that time anyway. But anyway, I folded the paper, and then he got mad because I didn't fold it the right way. He only said fold it in half, and there's 2 ways you can fold a piece of paper in half. So I didn't do it the way people normally do. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about that I do. I don't do things the way people normally do them, because I don't think I would ever learn things normal. So when doctors say this is the way a normal person would handle it, I'm like a little skeptical. I'm like, well, I don't know that I really agree with that, because I'm not saying, one of my friends, I told her, well, I'm not going to do that. And she says, what, are you not like the rest of us? I'm like, yeah. And I can't remember what she said, something about, what are you? Do you think you're an exception to everything? And I'm like, no, but I will be to that. And I was thinking how walking was never a problem. Balance and, well, mobility has been a problem, because, and I've noticed that I use different muscles to walk and to run. Now, how? I don't know, but the more I run, the worse I walk. And the more I walk, the worse I run. So it's the same muscles, I guess, but using them in a different way, if that makes sense. I need to go. Goodbye.